Hey folks, how is everybody doing? How's everybody doing? So I'm not sure if you follow social and cultural events that happen in the West, you might have been aware of an article that was published on Vogue magazine, which said, "Is having a boyfriend embarrassing now?" And it goes on to discuss how women in the West are now embarrassed to tell their friends or to make it public that they have a boyfriend. I mean, it goes into all kinds of like tropes and diatribes and biases um, and caricatures of men. And I mean, this article was published in the 31st of October 2025. And I've been thinking about it. I've seen a lot of reactions to it, and I must say that I am very concerned about how the West treats men and how Western media in particular represents and depicts men. I think if Western media depicted women the same way that it depicts men, I think that there would be an outright revolt. And the constant manner in which Western media depicts men in a negative light is actually quite shocking. A lot of people don't pay attention to it, uh, and they've become desensitized to it because it is just so common and so mainstream that a lot of people don't even notice it. It is to the point where I think that misandry or the hatred of men in the West is something that is cultural at this level. It is no longer an issue that is like, oh, it's happening there in the corner. No, it permeates each and every one of our institutions, our cultural institutions, our religious institutions, our academic institutions, media organizations, NGOs. It is everywhere. And also, I've also even noticed that when you're going into the academic space, the only articles that you find in peer-reviewed research about misandry or the hatred of men is so-called misandry myth. There hasn't really been any study of trying to understand how pervasive misandry is in the West. Instead, you find like articles which are written most often by feminists and one of these woke people trying to attempt to claim that those who say that misandry is or the hatred of men is commonplace in the West are lying. It's a myth. It's feminism reaction or whatever. And a lot of this stuff, I actually find it to be particularly gaslighting. And what surprises me the most for me is in terms of how when women say these negative things about men, there's this certain level of expectation that you're just supposed to sit there and nod along and accept it and say, yeah, men are horrible, men are horrible. But whenever someone says anything that is slightly negative about women, all of a sudden um, the sky is falling. I've even got to a point where I notice it even among married people. Like most married people that I know, it seems, and even when I'm talking about the men, and it seems to me that the basic requirement of being a married man in 2025 in the West is this assumption that you need to accept and affirm that men are horrible. and that women are these blameless victims. It is actually quite insane. Because because when you having you're meeting in these social gatherings, eventually people talk about politics, and then most people are not really interested in politics, and then eventually the talk goes to relationships and the state of relationships and marriage and the state of marriages and why people are not getting married, and all the time they are always blaming men. They are always blaming men, and there's one particular individual who, when we're talking about the issues that that contribute to the failures of marriage, this is a guy, by the way. All of the bad examples he was giving was of examples of men doing something wrong. Not a single example that he was giving was anything that a woman was doing wrong. And when I pointed to him that what he's doing is he's always making examples about men doing something wrong, never making examples about, he acted as if I was being crazy. And the funniest thing is that we were having this conversation, myself and him, and his wife was there and other people. And there seemed to be some sort of understanding that it's okay to just assume um, that men are the wrong ones, and that when you're making examples, never you make examples about anything that women have done wrong. I find it very interesting. And then there's another particular person who we're having a conversation in a group setting. This particular person, I had some other conversations with them about the similarity about women and men, and I was talking about, for instance, why I don't date black women in particular, and every time I list a negative trait of black women, for instance, it is as if he felt that it was his duty and responsibility to just defend black women or make excuses for them. But whenever someone makes a list of the bad things that that men do or black men do, there is no overwhelming, pressing need to come and defend them and make excuses for them. So I can even recently I had a conversation with someone that I trust, who's a pastor, and asked him a question of why do you think marriages are down in the West? And the first thing that came out of his mouth was to blame men for it. The first thing that came out of his mouth was to blame men. To the point for me where it's like the prerequisite of being married in the West as a man is this constant groveling towards women, and this constant oh, men are bad, oh, men are bad, I'm bad too, but I'm trying my best. Really, folks? Really? Or that, like, you're gonna stop being seen as a good man unless you are okay with sitting and listening at your wife and other women slandering men constantly, and then you just sit there and you just swallow it. Yeah, so that has made me. That's just like I think just by witnessing married people and married men in particular, and the behavior of married men, it has made me realize that I don't want what they have. And I'm not saying that what they have is not good for them. If it's good for them, good for you. I really don't wish anyone any ill will. I don't want anyone's marriage to not work out and all those things. I just don't want what they have. It's not for me. And the current configuration of marriage as it is in the West, and by the West I also include South Africa, by the way, it's not something that I want for myself. It's definitely not something that I look at it and I say, I'm inspired by that thing. And that includes marriages of people who I know who are pastors. And sometimes I find that pastors who, and the funniest thing about pastors, because pastors, they counsel people, they do premarital counseling, they do marital counseling. So they have an oversized influence on people's lives and people's marriages. And I also find that even these pastors, the way that their ideas about men is not an idea that I can agree with. It's an idea that men are bad people, men are villains, men are perpetrators, and you are not a good man unless you agree that men are bad people. This is not something that I can agree with. So this is one of the things for me that has led me to think that, you know what, folks, go ahead, do your thing. Under these conditions, under this configuration, I'm okay with not being married. I'm okay with being single. I'm okay with um, my life is okay the way that it is. But I think in particular, outside of just observing men who are married, I'm very, very concerned about the way that men are treated in the West. It is very concerning. This level of hatred towards a people group, this level of being constantly being beat down, being constantly being insulted and shamed and emasculated, and it is not good. It is not good, and it is just not ending. It is not stopping. It is, and you imagine that the messaging from the time that you are a little boy to the time that you become a man, you are constantly being told that you are a bad person. I actually can't imagine the psychological impact that this thing does on people. And then you see all kinds of stories on the news. I saw something on CNN recently, and MSNBC, even on the View, where they were talking about how men are not doing well in the West. And when I see some of those like stories about how men are struggling in the West, I just don't take those stories seriously, because I think the people who are making these stories don't really give a damn about the how men are doing in the West. They don't care. The only reason they're making these stories is because they are concerned that their daughters are not able to find husbands. And since their daughters are not able to find husbands, now they are concerned about the plight of men. But they are not concerned about the plight of men just because men are human beings who actually deserve consideration as well. And so I always see these stories, and even though the stories are about men, the men are decentered even in a story that is about men. It's actually quite wild, and it makes me want to leave the West and go to places where it is safer to be a man, like the East, whether it's Asia or I'd say the Middle East, or East Africa or East Europe. Um, any place where I'm not going to be constantly being told that I need to feel horrible because I'm a man. Yeah, and this war on men that's been happening, this war on men and boys that has been happening for the past 50 years, is destroying Western society, and I can't be part of it. I can't be part of a society that is doing so much damage on men. Yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to talk about that. This thing really, really, really grieves me. It absolutely creeps me and it upsets me.